The steel door exploded inward with a percussion that rattled Sarah Collins's ribcage. Smoke billowed through the warehouse corridor, grey and chemical, catching the beam of her tactical flashlight in swirling patterns. She pressed her back against concrete, pulse hammering, radio crackling static against her vest. All units hold position. Repeat, hold position until SWAT clears the building. Captain Daniels' voice cut through her earpiece, sharp and final. Sarah's jaw tightened. Beside her, Max's ears snapped forward, body coiled like a spring. The Malinois' nose worked the air, pupils dilated in the half-light. 7 years together had taught her to read him like text. Right now, every line of his body screamed one word: wrong. Collins, acknowledge. Daniels again, irritation bleeding through. She clicked her radio twice, acknowledged, not agreed. Max's growl came low, almost subsonic. His focus locked on a corridor to their right, one the SWAT team had cleared 10 minutes ago. Sarah knew that look. She'd seen it in a burning apartment when Max found a child hidden in a closet everyone else had checked. She'd seen it on a riverbank when he located a weapon divers had missed twice, the corridor Daniels ordered them away from. "Stay," she whispered to Max, though she already knew what she was about to do. The dog's eyes flicked to hers, dark, intelligent, insistent. Sarah made the decision in the space between heartbeats. She unclipped Max's lead and gave the hand signal they'd drilled 1,000 times. Search. Max moved like liquid shadow down the forbidden corridor. Sarah followed, weapon raised, every instinct screaming that she was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Behind them, voices shouted coordinates, radio chatter intensified. Someone had noticed their position. "Collins, what the hell are you doing?" Daniels, no longer calm. She didn't answer. Max had stopped at a section of wall that looked identical to every other panel in this decaying warehouse. His paw scraped concrete. Once, twice. Then he sat, the final alert position that meant here. Sarah's light swept the wall, nothing visible. But Max didn't lie. She ran her gloved hand along the seam where floor met wall. A draft, barely perceptible, cool against her palm. She pressed. Something clicked. A section of wall, 6 feet tall, cleverly disguised, shifted inward an inch. "Collins, extract immediately. That's an order." Daniel's voice had gone cold. Sarah holstered her weapon and gripped the panel's edge. It swung open on hidden hinges, revealing a room that shouldn't exist on any blueprint. Her flashlight beam caught the gleam of stainless steel tables, computer equipment with LEDs blinking in the darkness, filing cabinets, and a massive server rack humming with power. "Dispatch, this is Collins. I've got a concealed room, southeast corner, 2nd floor. It's..." She swept her light across a corkboard covered in photographs. Names, routes marked in red. "It's operational. Someone's been working here recently." Max padded inside, nose down, systematically clearing the space. Sarah followed, her light landing on an open laptop, screen still glowing. Financial spreadsheets, columns of numbers with coded locations, transfer dates, account numbers partially visible before a screensaver kicked in. A document sat beside the keyboard. She photographed it with her phone camera, hands steady despite the adrenaline. Corporate names she recognized, banks, routing numbers, and handwritten notes in the margins, initials, dates, quantities that made her stomach turn. "Collins!" Daniels's voice wasn't just angry now, it was something else, something that made her skin prickle. "Step away from whatever you found. Do not touch anything, do not photograph anything." Too late. Max alerted again, this time at a metal case tucked beneath the server rack. Sarah knelt, opened it. Burner phones, passports with different names, same faces, and stacks of documents bound with rubber bands. Contracts, wire transfer receipts, shipping manifests. All units converge on Collins's position. Daniels's command came through everyone's radio now. "Secure that room immediately." Footsteps thundered in the corridor outside. Sarah stood, placed herself between Max and the doorway, hand instinctively moving to her weapon, though she didn't draw. SWAT team members poured through the opening, weapons trained not on threats, but on her. Hands visible, the order came from Officer Reeves, a man she'd worked beside for 3 years. Sarah raised her hands slowly. "Reeves, look at this room. Look at what's here. This isn't some abandoned warehouse. This is Lieutenant Collins. Step away from the evidence." Captain Daniels pushed through the SWAT team, his face stone. He wasn't looking at the computers, the documents, the obvious signs of ongoing criminal operation. He was looking at her like she'd detonated a bomb in the middle of the department. "Captain, Max found a concealed room that SWAT missed. There's financial evidence here, records of—" "You violated a direct order." Daniels cut her off, voice flat. "You compromised an active operation. You contaminated a potential crime scene." "Contaminated." "Bachim." Sarah's hands dropped an inch. "Sir, no one knew this room existed. Max, your dog." Daniels pronounced the words like an accusation. "You disobeyed explicit commands because of what your dog indicated." Max, still sitting at attention near the metal case, let out a low whine. His ears flattened. Sarah's throat tightened. "With respect, Captain, Max has never given a false alert. Not in 7 years. This room contains evidence of large-scale money laundering, possibly tied to—" "That's enough." Daniels stepped closer, his voice dropping to a register only she could hear. "You just ended your career, Collins. I gave you a direct order. You ignored it in front of the entire unit because you trusted a dog's instinct over your commanding officer. That dog has saved 14 lives." Sarah's voice came out harder than intended. "Including yours, sir. 2 years ago, warehouse fire on Memorial Drive. Max pulled you out when you couldn't see through the smoke." Something flickered across Daniels's face. Then it was gone, replaced by administrative coldness. "Officer Reeves, escort Lieutenant Collins and her K-9 out of this building. Collins, you're suspended pending internal review. Surrender your weapon and badge." The words hit like physical blows. Sarah's hand moved to her badge, fingers tracing the number she'd earned. "Captain, please, just look at what's in this room. Whatever operation you thought you were running, this is bigger. These documents show—" "Now, Lieutenant." The room had gone silent. Every officer in that space was watching. Some looked away, some looked relieved, none looked surprised. Sarah unclipped her badge with hands that didn't shake. She placed it in Daniels's outstretched palm, the metal catching the harsh LED light. Then her service weapon, magazine removed, chamber cleared, the ritual of surrender. "Max stays with me," she said quietly. "The dog is department property. Like hell he is." Sarah's voice could have cut glass. "Max is my partner. He goes where I go." For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then he nodded once, sharp. "Fine. Take your dog. You're both done here." Sarah knelt, clipped Max's lead, and ran her hand along his neck. The Malinois pressed against her leg, solid and warm. She stood, met Daniel's eyes one last time. "You're making a mistake, Captain. The only mistake made tonight was yours." Daniels turned his back on her. "Get her out of my crime scene." Reeves stepped forward, not quite meeting her eyes. "Come on, Sarah, let's go." The walk through the warehouse felt endless. Officers parted as she passed. A corridor of former colleagues who suddenly found their boots fascinating. Radio chatter followed her out, already recoding the narrative. Lieutenant Collins compromised the operation. Lieutenant Collins violated protocol. Lieutenant Collins trusted a dog over human judgment. Outside, Atlanta's night air hit her face, humid and thick with promised rain. Red and blue lights painted the warehouse exterior in strobing colors. News vans had arrived, cameras already rolling. Someone had leaked this fast. Reeves walked her to her personal vehicle, a 10-year-old Ford Explorer that smelled like dog treats and determination. He opened the back door for Max, who jumped in without hesitation. "For what it's worth," Reeves said quietly. Max was right. That room, whatever's in there, it's big, bigger than a routine warehouse sweep. Then why? Because you didn't follow orders, Sarah, in front of everyone. Daniels can't let that slide, no matter what Max found. Reeves glanced back at the warehouse. "And between you and me, some people didn't want that room found. Not tonight. Maybe not ever." Cold settled into Sarah's chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying go home. Stay quiet. Wait for internal affairs to call." Reeves stepped back. "And Sarah, be careful. You just embarrassed some people who don't like being embarrassed." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the sea of uniforms and flashing lights. Sarah climbed into the driver's seat. Max's nose pressed against the back of her neck, his breathing steady and calm. She gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. 7 years, 14 lives saved, commendations, a promotion to lieutenant. All of it weighed against a single decision to trust her partner, the one with 4 legs and instincts that had never failed her. She started the engine. The radio squawked one final transmission. Crime scene secure. All units clear. Sarah drove through the checkpoint, past the cameras, past the department she'd given everything to. In her rearview mirror, the warehouse lights grew smaller. Max whined softly. "I know, boy," Sarah whispered. "I know." By the time she reached her apartment in East Atlanta, rain had started to fall. She sat in the parking lot, engine off, listening to drops hammer the roof. Her phone buzzed. Text messages loading. She didn't look. Inside the apartment, Max went straight to his bed in the corner, circling twice before lying down. His eyes tracked her as she moved through the small space, shedding tactical vest, gear belt, the uniform she'd worn with pride. Sarah stood in her bathroom, staring at her reflection, 33 years old, hair still pulled tight in regulation bun. The faint scar above her left eyebrow from a domestic call gone wrong. Eyes that had seen too much tonight. She turned on the shower, let the water run hot enough to hurt. When she finally climbed out, wrapped in a towel, steam clouding the mirror, she found Max sitting in the doorway, patient, present, loyal in a way humans had forgotten. "You were right," she told him. "You're always right." Max's tail thumped once against the floor. Sarah dressed in civilian clothes, jeans, a soft grey t-shirt, bare feet on cold tile. She opened her laptop at the kitchen table and pulled up the photos she'd taken in that hidden room. The financial documents, the names, the routes. She studied them until her eyes burned, trying to find the pattern, the connection. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. Daniels. "Don't make this worse. Delete any photos. Do not discuss this with anyone. IAB will contact you." Sarah set the phone down, made no move to delete anything. Outside, thunder rolled across Atlanta's skyline. Lightning illuminated her apartment in stark flashes. Max's ears perked at each boom, but he didn't move from his position near her chair. "What did we find, Max?" Sarah asked the darkness. "What was worth ending my career to keep hidden?" The dog had no answers, only unwavering presence. Sarah closed her laptop. She'd given the department everything. In return, they'd taken her badge, her identity, 7 years of service. They'd called her reckless, insubordinate. They'd made trusting Max, trusting the partner who'd saved 14 lives, into a crime. But they'd made one critical mistake. They'd let her walk away with the photos, with the knowledge, with Max. Sarah reached down, ran her fingers through Max's fur. 2 days, she whispered. They said IAB would call in 2 days. Guess we wait. Max's response was to rest his chin on her foot, solid and warm and completely certain of where he belonged. In the darkness, neither of them knew that waiting would last exactly 48 hours. Neither of them knew that when the phone finally rang, it wouldn't be internal affairs on the other end. It would be someone far more dangerous, someone who understood exactly what Max had found in that warehouse room, and someone who knew that firing Sarah Collins had just made her the most valuable asset in a game she didn't even know she was playing. Dawn broke over Atlanta like a wound, all raw orange and bruised purple. Sarah hadn't slept. She sat at her kitchen table, same position as 3 hours ago, coffee gone cold in her hands. Max lay at her feet, chin resting on her boot, his steady breathing the only sound that felt real. Her phone sat face down on the table, 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. She hadn't read any since midnight. The apartment felt smaller in daylight. 1 bedroom, kitchen that barely fit a table, living room dominated by Max's bed and toy basket, certificates on the wall, commendations, training completions, a framed photo of her graduation from the K-9 Academy. Sarah and Max, both younger, both certain the world worked a specific way. She'd been wrong about that. A car door slammed outside. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to where her service weapon should be, touched only empty hip. The absence felt like amputation. Max's head lifted, ears forward, not alarmed, curious. Footsteps on the exterior stairs, 3 flights up, deliberate pace, a knock, 2 sharp raps, pause, 1 more. Sarah recognized the pattern. She stood, moved to the door, checked the peephole. Detective James Park from Financial Crimes stood in her hallway, baseball cap pulled low, eyes checking both directions. He wasn't in uniform. Sarah opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. "Park!" "Collins." He glanced past her shoulder. "You alone?" "Just me and Max." "Good, let me in, quickly." She hesitated, then slid the chain free. Park stepped inside, moved immediately away from the window. He pulled off his cap, ran a hand through his hair. The man looked like he'd aged 5 years since she'd seen him last week at the precinct. "You shouldn't be here," Sarah said. "Yeah, well, you shouldn't have been in that warehouse last night." Park's eyes found the coffee maker. "That fresh? 3 hours old. I'll take it." Sarah poured him a cup while Max approached Park, tail wagging slowly. The detective scratched behind the dog's ears, something he'd done 100 times before during joint operations. "Heard you got suspended," Park said, accepting the mug. "Whole department's talking about it. Half think you're a hero, other half think you're an idiot. Which half are you? The half that's been digging into those corporate names you photographed?" Park pulled out his phone, swiped to a document. "Before Daniels locked down the evidence and classified everything under active investigation, these accounts you found? They're shells. Dozens of them. Money moves through them like water, in from pharmaceutical companies, construction firms, real estate groups, out to offshore accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, Singapore." Sarah took the phone, studying the cascade of transactions. "How much are we talking?" "Conservative estimate, 40 million over the last 18 months. But Collins, that's not the interesting part." Park moved closer, voice dropping though they were alone. "The interesting part is who authorized the warehouse raid in the first place. SWAT gets called in all the time for... Not SWAT. The whole operation. Who requested it? Who signed off? Who decided last night was the night to hit that location?" Park's jaw tightened. It wasn't a routine call. Someone specifically requested that warehouse be cleared, and they requested it be done quietly, minimal personnel, no advance publicity. Sarah's stomach turned cold. "Daniels? He signed the authorization, but the request came from higher up, city level, maybe higher than that." Park took back his phone. "And here's what's keeping me awake. Someone knew exactly when to hit that warehouse, like they were expecting something, or someone. You think it was a setup? I think you finding that hidden room wasn't part of anyone's plan. I think Max detecting something SWAT missed threw a wrench into something very carefully orchestrated." Park drank his coffee, grimaced at the cold bitterness. "Question is, What were they planning to find, or what were they planning not to find? Max whined, moving back to Sarah's side. She rested her hand on his head, feeling the solid warmth of him. "You need to be careful," Park continued. "The way Daniel shut you down last night, that wasn't normal procedure. That was panic. And the lockdown on the evidence, I've never seen that happen so fast. By the time I got to the office this morning, everything from that room was already classified. Only people who can access it now are Daniels and whoever's running the investigation." "What investigation? They fired me for finding it." "Suspended, not fired. There's a difference." Park set down his mug. "Internal Affairs will call you in, probably tomorrow. They'll ask about your decision-making, your relationship with department protocol, whether you think a K9 alert supersedes direct orders. All questions they already know the answer to." "Sarah." Park's voice softened. "They're going to try to paint you as unstable, overly attached to your dog. Someone who makes emotional decisions instead of logical ones. They're going to make Max the problem." Heat flared in Sarah's chest. "Max has a better solve rate than half the detectives in that department." "I know. I'm telling you what they're going to say, not what's true." Park moved toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. This morning, someone accessed your personnel file. Looked at your evaluations, your case history, your training records." "IAB?" "No. The access came from an external IP address. Someone outside the department." Park's hand rested on the doorknob. "I don't know what you stumbled into last night, Collins, but whatever it is, people are paying attention, the wrong kind of people." He left as quietly as he'd arrived. Sarah locked the door behind him, engaged the chain, stood with her back pressed against the wood. Max sat at attention, watching her with those dark, intelligent eyes. "We're in trouble, aren't we?" Sarah asked. The dog's tail wagged once. Sarah's phone buzzed. She picked it up, finally looked at the messages. Most were from other officers, some supportive, some curious, some clearly fishing for information to share. She ignored those. One message stood out, from an unknown number sent at 4:47 a.m. Unknown. "The room you found is the tip. Stay quiet, stay safe, trust your instincts." Sarah stared at it for a full minute, then she deleted it. The day crawled forward with the weight of suspended time. Sarah tried to occupy herself, cleaning her already clean apartment, organizing Max's training equipment, attempting to eat food that tasted like cardboard. Everything felt like waiting. By afternoon, claustrophobia set in. She clipped Max's lead, grabbed her keys. They needed to move. The park 3 blocks from her apartment usually sat empty on weekday afternoons. Sarah let Max off lead in the fenced training area, watching him sprint in wide circles, burning energy that had nowhere else to go. His joy was uncomplicated, pure. She sat on a bench, sun warm on her face, and allowed herself to think about what came next. No badge, no partner unit, no identity beyond. Suspended officer under investigation. The department had been her life since age 26. Before that, the military. Before that, a childhood she preferred not to revisit. Max had been her constant for 7 years, the only relationship she'd maintained longer than 6 months. The only partnership that never questioned, never doubted, never asked her to be anyone except exactly who she was. "Sarah Collins?" She turned. A woman approached from the park entrance, early 30s, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore running clothes, but wasn't breathing hard, hadn't been running at all. Max appeared instantly at Sarah's side, not aggressive, but alert. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Sarah stood, instinctively positioning herself between the woman and Max. "No, but I know you." The woman stopped 10 feet away, hands visible. "My name is Agent Rebecca Chen, FBI. I need to talk to you about what you found last night." Sarah's pulse kicked up. I'm suspended pending investigation. I can't discuss active cases. This isn't an active case for Atlanta PD, not anymore. Chen pulled out credentials, held them where Sarah could see. FBI, Financial Crimes Unit. As of 7 o'clock this morning, the warehouse evidence was transferred to federal jurisdiction. Your Captain Daniels didn't have much choice in the matter. How did you find me? I'm FBI. Finding people is literally my job. Chen lowered her credentials. I'm not here officially. I'm here because someone very powerful wanted that warehouse room to stay hidden, and you just made yourself a very large problem for them. I was following my K-9's alert. I know. I read your file. 7 years, 14 lives saved, never a false positive. Max is a legend in K-9 circles. Chen's eyes moved to the dog. Mind if I sit? Sarah gestured to the bench. Chen sat, maintaining careful distance. The accounts you photographed, Chen began. They're part of a money laundering operation we've been tracking for 8 months. Millions flowing through legitimate businesses, then disappearing into international accounts. We've identified 3 major players, all with connections to Mexican cartels looking to clean their profits through American real estate and pharmaceutical investments. So arrest them. It's not that simple. These aren't street dealers. They're businessmen, lawyers. Some of them are elected officials. Chen pulled out her phone, showed Sarah a photo. 3 men in suits, laughing at some formal event. The man in the middle is Marcus Delgado, owns a construction company, sits on 2 corporate boards donated to the mayor's campaign. He's also the primary architect of this entire operation. Sarah studied the photo. And you can't touch him because he's careful. We can't touch him because he has protection. The kind of protection that makes evidence disappear. Witnesses recant and federal cases collapse before they reach trial. Chen put away her phone. That warehouse was supposed to be cleaned out. Someone tipped them off about the raid, gave them time to remove everything valuable. But your dog found the one room they missed, the backup location, the insurance. Why are you telling me this? Because in about 24 hours, someone's going to call you, not IAB, not your captain, someone who will offer you money to forget what you saw, to admit you made a mistake, that you let your attachment to your dog cloud your judgment. Chen's eyes were steel. They're going to try to turn your suspension into retirement, a quiet exit, a payout. I'm not interested. I know. That's why I'm here. Chen stood. When they call, tell them no. Tell them you're fighting the suspension. Make noise. Make them think you're a problem they need to solve another way. Another way? People who threaten Delgado's operation tend to have accidents, house fires, car crashes, random violence in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. Chen's voice was flat. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to keep you alive long enough to help us take him down. Sarah's blood went cold. You want me to be bait. I want you to be exactly what you've always been, a good cop who follows the evidence. Chen handed her a card. Plain white, just a phone number. When you're ready to make them very nervous, call that number. Ask for Reid. Who's Reid? Someone who's been investigating this operation longer than I have. Someone who knows exactly how deep this goes. Chen walked backward a few steps. And Sarah? Keep your dog close. Max is the only reason you're still alive. They know if something happens to you right after you made that discovery, it looks suspicious, but accidents can be arranged. Don't make it easy. She left Sarah standing in the empty park, card in hand, heart pounding. Max pressed against her leg, sensing her tension. Yeah, boy, Sarah whispered. I feel it too. They walked home as evening settled over Atlanta. Streetlights flickered on, traffic thickened with rush hour, normal life proceeding normally, while Sarah's world tilted on an axis she couldn't see. Inside her apartment, she triple-checked the locks, closed the curtains, sat at her table and stared at Agent Chen's card. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Sarah answered. Collins. Lieutenant Collins, my name is Michael Torres. I'm an attorney representing certain business interests in Atlanta. The voice was smooth, professional, utterly devoid of warmth. I understand you're currently facing disciplinary action regarding your conduct during a recent operation. Sarah said nothing. My clients are prepared to make a very generous offer, a settlement, if you will, that would allow you to retire with full pension plus a substantial sum to compensate for any distress caused by this unfortunate situation. All we ask in return is your discretion regarding certain evidence that may have been compromised during the operation in question. Not interested. Lieutenant, perhaps you should consider... I said no. Sarah's voice cut like glass. I'm fighting the suspension, every step, every appeal, and I'm keeping every photograph I took. Silence on the other end. Then, that would be inadvisable. Is that a threat? It's advice from people who wish you well. Think about it, Lieutenant. You have 48 hours. The line went dead. Sarah set down her phone. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Max whined, rested his head on her knee. She pulled out Chen's card, stared at the number. 48 hours, Torres had said. 2 days to decide whether to fight or fold. 2 days to decide whether to trust her instincts or trust the system that had just thrown her away. Sarah looked at Max. 7 years of partnership. 7 years of him being right when everyone else was wrong. She picked up her phone and dialed the number on Chen's card. It rang twice. A man answered. This is Reid. My name is Sarah Collins. Agent Chen said to call. They just offered me money to disappear. And what did you tell them? I told them no. A pause. Then Reid's voice, carrying something that might have been respect. Then I think we need to talk. In person. Tonight. Sarah looked around her apartment, the certificates on the wall, the photos, the life she'd built from nothing. Where? She asked. Reid gave her an address. A diner on the south side, public, neutral. Come alone, he said. Well, you and Max. I hear he's the smart one. Sarah almost smiled. Almost. We'll be there. She hung up. The apartment felt different now. Not like home. Like a checkpoint between one life and whatever came next. Max stood, stretched, moved to the door. Ready. Always ready. Sarah grabbed her jacket. Her keys, her phone, left her badge where it lay on the table, a piece of metal that had meant everything until it meant nothing. Outside, night had settled completely. Atlanta glowed with 10,000 lights, each one a life proceeding normally. Sarah climbed into her Explorer. Max jumped into his usual position in the back. In her rearview mirror, she could see her apartment window, could see the life she'd built, orderly and small and safe. She started the engine. 48 hours, Torres had said. Sarah figured they had less time than that before someone decided talking had failed. She pulled out of the parking lot, heading south toward whatever Agent Reid had to offer, toward the only choice that made sense when the system you trusted revealed itself as the enemy. Max's nose pressed against her shoulder, warm and certain. I know, Sarah said softly. Trust the instinct, just like you taught me. The city lights blurred past as she drove toward a meeting that would either save her or destroy her. She'd find out which in about 30 minutes. The diner sat on a corner in Grant Park, all chrome and red vinyl, the kind of place that served breakfast 24 hours and asked no questions. Sarah pulled into the parking lot at 9:47 p.m., scanning for threats out of habit. 3 other vehicles, a server visible through the windows, 1 customer at the counter. Max shifted in the back seat, alert but not alarmed. Stay close, Sarah murmured, opening his door. They walked across cracked asphalt, pushed through the diner entrance. A bell chimed. The air smelled like coffee and old grease. The customer at the counter didn't look up. Middle-aged man in a Braves cap hunched over pie. A booth in the back corner held the only other occupied table. A man in his early 40s, dark hair touched with grey, eyes that catalogued her in the 3 seconds it took to cross the room. He wore jeans and a plain black jacket. No visible weapon, but Sarah would bet her explorer he was armed. Lieutenant Collins. He stood, offered his hand. Special Agent Marcus Reid. Sarah shook it. Firm grip. Brief. Professional. She slid into the booth opposite him, Max settling at her feet under the table. Reid pushed a menu toward her. Coffee's decent. Everything else is questionable. Not hungry. Neither am I, but we should order something. Keeps the server happy. Reid raised a hand. A woman in her 50s approached, notepad ready. 2 coffees, piece of apple pie. Make that 2 pieces, Sarah added. Max's ears perked. The server left. Silence settled between them. Reid studied Sarah with the calm assessment of someone who made quick decisions about people's value. Sarah held his gaze. Agent Chen briefed you, Reid said finally, not a question. She told me I found something people wanted to stay hidden. She told me to make noise, make them nervous, then call you. Sarah leaned forward slightly. What she didn't tell me is why I should trust the FBI any more than I trust my own department. Fair question. Reid pulled out his phone, set it face down between them. You shouldn't trust anyone right now. Not me, not Chen, certainly not anyone in Atlanta PD. But here's what I can tell you. We've been tracking Marcus Delgado's operation for 11 months. We have evidence of money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to commit fraud. What we don't have is the documentation that proves the network extends into law enforcement and city government. The warehouse room. The warehouse room, Reid confirmed. That room contained the backup files, insurance that Delgado kept in case his partners decided to turn on him, account numbers, wire transfers, meeting notes, names, dates, all the pieces we need to connect the money to the people moving it. The server returned with coffee and pie. Sarah waited until she left before speaking. If you have all that evidence, why do you need me? Because as of this morning, all that evidence is back in Delgado's hands. Reid's voice went flat. Someone in the evidence chain transferred everything from federal custody to a private security firm. By the time we realized what happened, the room had been cleaned out, computers wiped, documents gone. The warehouse is empty. Sarah's stomach dropped. How is that possible? It's possible when the corruption goes higher than street level, when judges, prosecutors, even federal agents are on someone's payroll. Reid drank his coffee, grimaced. We have copies of what you photographed, but photographs aren't enough. We need witnesses. We need someone on the inside who can testify about what they saw, what they documented, what they discovered. I'm suspended. I'm not on the inside of anything. Exactly. Reid leaned forward. You're invisible now. They fired you to discredit you, to make sure anything you say looks like revenge from a bitter ex-cop. But that same invisibility makes you valuable. They think you're neutralized. They think the threat is contained. What are you asking? I'm asking you to prove them wrong. Reid pushed his coffee aside. Delgado's operation uses legitimate businesses as fronts, construction sites, pharmaceutical distribution centers, real estate developments. They move money through these locations using employees who don't know what they're handling, but someone has to coordinate. Someone has to physically transport documents, verify transfers, maintain the backup systems. You want me to infiltrate? I want you to be exactly what you are, a cop who lost her job for doing the right thing, someone bitter enough to be bought, someone skilled enough to be useful. Reid's eyes were steady. We feed the story that you're struggling financially, that you're looking for work, that you might be willing to bend a few rules for the right price. Delgado's people will hear about it. They'll approach you. And then what? Then you get inside. You find out where they moved the evidence from that warehouse. You document everything you can. And when we have enough, we take down the entire network. Sarah stared at him. You're asking me to go undercover, without backup, without a badge, without any official standing? Yes. That's insane. Yes, Reid agreed. It's also the only play we have left. Max's nose pressed against Sarah's leg under the table. She reached down, felt his solid warmth. What about Max? She asked. What about him? He comes with me. Wherever this goes, whatever this becomes, Max is part of it. Reid glanced under the table, studied the dog for a moment. Chen said he's the reason you're still breathing. Said he's never given a false alert. Never. Then he's an asset. Reid pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. This is what we know about Delgado's current operations. 3 active sites, a construction project in Buckhead, a pharmaceutical warehouse in College Park, a real estate office downtown. We believe one of these locations is now being used to store the evidence they recovered from the warehouse. Sarah opened the folder. Photographs, address lists, employee rosters. Her training kicked in automatically, cataloging patterns, identifying vulnerabilities. You're a good cop, Collins, Reid said quietly. I've read your file. 7 years K9 unit, exemplary record. If 14 lives saved, you don't make bad calls. You don't fold under pressure. And right now, you're one of maybe 5 people in this city I can trust. Why should I believe you're one of the 5? Because if I was dirty, you'd already be dead. Reid's voice carried no threat, just flat truth. Torres called you tonight, offered you money. That was step 1, the carrot. When you refused, they moved to step 2. Within the next 12 hours, something will happen. Maybe your apartment gets broken into. Maybe someone follows you. Maybe Max gets sick from food that wasn't poisoned by accident. They'll escalate until you either take the money or stop being a problem. Cold ran down Sarah's spine. You're saying they'll kill me. I'm saying they'll make it look like an accident. Suspended cop, distraught. Maybe she drinks too much one night and her building has an electrical fire. These things happen. Reid closed the folder. Unless you become valuable to them, unless you become someone they need alive, by pretending to be corrupt, by giving them what they think they want, a trained officer with access to law enforcement resources, someone who knows how investigations work, someone desperate enough to cross lines. Reid met her eyes. You do this right. They won't want to kill you. They'll want to recruit you. Sarah sat back, mind racing through scenarios. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that going undercover without official sanction was career suicide. But her career was already dead. Her badge was on her kitchen table. Her identity was stripped. She had nothing left to lose except her life. And Max's. What's the timeline? She asked. We start immediately. Tomorrow morning I leak that you're looking for work. By afternoon, word reaches the right people. Within 48 hours, someone makes contact. Reid pulled out another item from his jacket. A small phone, still in packaging. Burner, only 3 numbers programmed. Mine, Chen's, and an emergency line that goes straight to our operations center. You call that 3rd number, we extract you within the hour. Sarah took the phone. It felt like accepting a bomb. What about my apartment? We'll have surveillance on it, rotating teams, civilian vehicles. If anyone approaches, we'll know. Reid hesitated. Collins, I need to be clear about something. This operation isn't sanctioned by my superiors. As far as FBI brass knows, we've closed the Delgado case due to lack of evidence. What I'm asking you to do, it's off book. If something goes wrong, I can't protect you officially. Then why should I trust you unofficially? Because 11 months ago, my partner, Agent David Morrison, was investigating Delgado's pharmaceutical operation. He found evidence of kickbacks to doctors, falsified prescriptions, Opioids being distributed to street dealers. He was building a case. Reid's jaw tightened. Someone tipped off Delgado. Morrison was killed in what they called a home invasion. 3 shots, execution style. They never found the shooter. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be smart. Reid stood. Morrison trusted the system. He filed reports, followed protocol, believed the law would protect him. It didn't. So I stopped following the rules that got him killed. And I started looking for people who understand that sometimes the only way to catch monsters is to walk into their darkness. Sarah looked down at Max. The dog watched her with complete trust, complete loyalty. 7 years of partnership built on one simple truth: they protected each other. Always. She looked up at Reid. I have conditions. Name them. 1. Max comes with me everywhere. Non-negotiable. 2. If I find evidence that proves who ordered my suspension, I want that name. 3. When this is over, I want my badge back. My record cleared. My career restored. I can guarantee conditions 1 and 2. Number 3 depends on how much damage we can prove, but I'll fight for it. Reid extended his hand. Do we have a deal? Sarah thought about the warehouse, about the hidden room, about Daniels's face when he ordered her to surrender her badge, about Park's warning that someone outside the department was accessing her file. She thought about Agent Chen's words. Keep your dog close. Max is the only reason you're still alive. She took Reid's hand. We have a deal. Good. Reid dropped cash on the table, enough to cover the check plus a generous tip. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., there's a coffee shop on Piedmont called The Grind. Order something, sit outside, look like you're job hunting on your laptop. I'll make sure the right people know you're there. What do I do when they approach? Play it like you're suspicious but interested, reluctant but desperate. They'll test you, ask questions, verify your story, let them. Everything about your suspension is public record now. They'll check. It'll all line up. Sarah slid out of the booth, Max rising with her. What if they ask why I'd turn against my own department? Tell them the truth. Reid's voice was quiet. Tell them the department turned against you first. They walked out together, the night air thick with humidity and approaching rain. In the parking lot, Reid stopped beside a dark sedan. Collins, he said, one more thing. When you're inside, when they start to trust you, remember that you're not actually one of them. It's easy to forget that line, easy to blur it. Morrison did toward the end. He started thinking like them, acting like them. It got him killed. I'm not Morrison. No, you're better. You have something he didn't. Reid glanced at Max. You have a partner who doesn't lie, who can't be bought, who'll pull you back if you go too far. Trust that. He got in his car and drove away, taillights disappearing into Atlanta traffic. Sarah stood alone in the parking lot, burner phone in her pocket, Max at her side. Somewhere in this city, Marcus Delgado was moving pieces on a board she couldn't see. Somewhere, people who'd ordered her suspension were deciding her value. Somewhere, a clock was counting down to whatever came next. She opened her Explorer, let Max jump in, started the engine. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., she would sit in a coffee shop and pretend to be something she'd spent 7 years proving she wasn't, a cop for sale. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every car behind her could be surveillance. Every pedestrian could be a spotter. Sarah's training kicked in, varying speed, taking unexpected turns, watching mirrors. No obvious tails. But that didn't mean they weren't there. Her apartment building looked the same as always. 3 stories, brick facade, security door with a keypad lock she was certain didn't stop anyone determined. She parked in her usual spot, took the stairs instead of the elevator. At her door, Max alerted, ears forward, body tense. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her absent weapon. She pulled out her keys, held them between her fingers like claws. Stupid defense, but better than nothing. She unlocked the door. pushed it open. Lights were on. She'd left them off. "Easy," she whispered to Max. They entered together. The apartment looked untouched. Kitchen clean. Living room undisturbed. But something felt wrong. A presence, a violation. Sarah moved through each room. Bathroom clear. Bedroom clear. Closet clear. Then she saw it. On her kitchen table, next to where her badge still sat. A single photograph, printed on standard paper, recent, high quality. The photo showed Sarah and Max at the park that afternoon. She was sitting on the bench. The angle suggested a telephoto lens from across the street. Beneath it, handwritten in neat block letters, "Accidents happen to those who don't listen." Sarah's blood turned to ice. They'd been in her apartment while she was meeting with Reid. They'd walked through her space, touched her things, left their message, and they'd photographed her just hours earlier, knowing where she'd be. Max growled, low and continuous. Sarah pulled out her regular phone, photographed the message. Then she pulled out the burner and called the first number. Reid answered immediately. "Collins. They were in my apartment. Left a photo. A threat." Silence for 3 seconds. "Pack a bag. Essential items only. You're moving to a safe house tonight." "What about—" "Bring Max. Bring anything you can't afford to lose. Leave everything else. I'll text you an address in 5 minutes. Don't use your regular phone for anything except emergencies. Understand?" "Yes." "Good. Move fast. And Collins, this just proves we're on the right track. They're scared." He hung up. Sarah stood in her apartment looking at 7 years of life, her certificates, her photos. The coffee maker that had brewed terrible coffee this morning, while she still believed yesterday's suspension was the worst thing that could happen. She grabbed a duffel bag, threw in clothes, toiletries, Max's food and medication, her laptop, the photographs from the warehouse still saved to encrypted cloud storage. 5 minutes. That's all it took to pack up a life and walk away. The burner buzzed. Reid's text, an address in Virginia Highland, instructions to park 2 blocks away and approach on foot. Sarah took one last look at her apartment, at the badge still sitting on the table beside the threatening photo, at the life she'd built from nothing. Then she grabbed Max's lead, shouldered her bag, and walked out. She didn't lock the door. Anyone who wanted in had already been inside. The drive took 20 minutes through light traffic. Sarah parked where Reid instructed, grabbed her bag. Max jumped down, immediately alert to the new environment. They walked 2 blocks. The safe house turned out to be a renovated bungalow, lights on, door opening before they reached the steps. Agent Chen stood in the doorway. "Inside, quickly." Sarah didn't argue. They entered a living room that looked normal. Couch, TV, coffee table. But Sarah noticed the cameras in corners, the reinforced door, the window sensors. "You'll stay here until we make contact with Delgado's people," Chen said, locking the door behind them. "Reid's putting out feelers now. By tomorrow afternoon, they'll know you're looking for work." "And if they don't bite?" "They will. You're exactly what they need. Skilled, angry, and according to public record, suspended without pay." Chen gestured to the hallway. "Bedrooms through there, kitchens stocked. There's a yard out back for Max. Try to get some sleep." Sarah almost laughed. Sleep, as if that was possible. But she took her bag to the bedroom Chen indicated. Small, clean, anonymous. A bed that wasn't hers. Walls that held no memories. Max circled twice and lay down near the door, positioning himself between Sarah and any threat. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out the burner phone, stared at the emergency number programmed into it. 1 call and they'd extract her. 1 call and she could walk away. But walk away to what? A suspended career, a threatening message, a life that no longer fit. She set down the phone, lay back on the unfamiliar bed, closed her eyes. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. she would become someone else, someone angry enough to betray everything she believed in, someone desperate enough to cross lines. The invisible agent. Max's breathing steadied into sleep. Somewhere in the house, Sarah heard Chen moving, checking security. Outside, Atlanta hummed with ordinary nighttime sounds. Sarah opened her eyes, stared at the ceiling. "Trust the instinct," she whispered to the darkness. Max's tail thumped once against the floor. Tomorrow she would find out if her instinct could keep them both alive. The coffee shop buzzed with morning energy, espresso machines hissing, conversation overlapping, the peculiar soundtrack of people pretending productivity. Sarah sat at an outdoor table, laptop open, eyes scanning job postings she had no intention of applying to. 9:17 a.m. She'd been here 18 minutes. Max lay under the table, head on his paws, the picture of a relaxed pet. But Sarah felt the tension in his body, coiled, ready. A man in a grey suit walked past, glanced at her laptop screen, kept moving. 2 college students argued about philosophy 3 tables over. A server wiped down an empty table, made eye contact with Sarah, looked away. Normal, everything looked normal. Sarah's burner phone sat face down beside her coffee. Reid had texted at 6 a.m. "They're watching, play your role, wait." So she waited. At 9:32, a woman approached. Mid-40s, professional attire, carrying a leather briefcase. She stopped beside Sarah's table. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Sarah looked up. The coffee shop had 6 empty tables. "Help yourself." The woman set down her briefcase with deliberate care. "You're Sarah Collins, used to be Lieutenant Collins, Atlanta PD." Sarah's pulse kicked up. She kept her face neutral. "Used to be. You with a news station? Because I'm not giving interviews. Not a reporter. My name is Elena Voss. I represent a private security consulting firm. We've been following your situation." Voss pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. "Voss Security Solutions. No address, just a phone number. Your suspension made local news. Officer fired for trusting her K9 over department protocol. It's an interesting story. Suspended, not fired. Semantics. Either way, you're not collecting a paycheck." Voss's eyes were calculating, assessing. "We're always looking for experienced personnel, officers who understand tactical situations, people who can think independently." "I'm listening. How's your financial situation, Ms. Collins?" Sarah let bitterness creep into her voice. "It wasn't hard. I gave 7 years to that department, 14 lives saved. They threw me away like garbage because I followed a scent trail. So no, my financial situation isn't great. What if I told you there are opportunities for someone with your skills? Off-book work, private clients who value discretion and results over rigid protocol." Voss leaned forward slightly. "The kind of work that pays very well and doesn't require a badge." "What kind of work?" "Security assessments, transportation logistics, occasionally verifying that certain locations meet safety standards." Voss's smile was professional and completely empty. Nothing illegal, just private sector solutions for private sector problems. Sarah pretended to consider, let uncertainty show. "Why me? There are hundreds of suspended cops in this city." "Because your particular skill set is rare, K9 training, tactical experience, and most importantly, you've already proven you can operate outside official channels when necessary." Voss tapped the business card. "My client has a job that requires someone with exactly your background. 1 day of work, $10,000, cash." Sarah's eyebrows rose. That wasn't acting. That's a lot of money for a day's work. It's specialized work. We need someone who can evaluate a warehouse facility, check for structural weaknesses, security vulnerabilities, that sort of thing. Your police background makes you perfect, and that dog of yours, he stays with you. In fact, my client specifically requested someone with K9 training. Under the table, Max shifted position. Not alerting, but not relaxed either. "What's the catch?" Sarah asked. "No catch. You do the assessment, you file a report, you get paid. If you're professional and discreet, there might be additional opportunities." Voss stood. Think about it. Call that number if you're interested, but don't wait too long. My client needs this done by Friday. She walked away, disappearing into the morning sidewalk traffic. Sarah stared at the business card. $10,000, a warehouse assessment. Everything about it screamed setup. Everything about it felt like walking into a trap with eyes open. She pulled out the burner, texted Reid. Contact made. They want me to assess a warehouse. Friday deadline. Response came in 30 seconds. Perfect. Accept the job. We'll prep you tonight. Sarah pocketed both phones, closed her laptop, looked down at Max. Well, boy, looks like we're going to work. Max's tail wagged once. Trust. Always trust. The safe house felt different in daylight. Less sanctuary, more staging area. Reid arrived at 2 p.m. with Chen and another agent Sarah hadn't met, a tech specialist named Martinez, who looked about 12 years old. They spread maps across the dining table, photographs, blueprints. The warehouse Voss mentioned is in College Park, Reid began, pointing to an aerial photo. Officially, it's a pharmaceutical distribution center owned by Sterling Medical Supply. Unofficially, it's one of Delgado's primary laundering locations. They're bringing me in to assess security? Sarah studied the building layout. 3 stories, loading docks, multiple entry points. They're testing you, Chen corrected. This job is an audition. They want to see if you'll actually do what you say you'll do, if you're reliable, if you're someone they can use. Martinez pulled out a small device, no bigger than a button. You'll wear this, audio and GPS. We'll track your location and record everything. If things go wrong, I call the emergency line, Sarah finished. I know the drill. This isn't a drill, Reid said quietly. This is real, and the people you're about to meet, they've killed to protect this operation. Morrison wasn't their first victim. He won't be their last. Sarah met his eyes, saw the weight of his partner's death. I understand. Do you? Reid leaned against the table. Because once you walk into that warehouse, you're not a cop anymore. You're not FBI adjacent. You're an asset working off-book for a criminal organization. If they discover what you really are, we won't be able to protect you fast enough. So I don't get discovered. Sarah. Chen's voice was softer. Reid's trying to give you an out. If you want to walk away, now's the time. No judgment, no consequences. Sarah looked at Max, lying near the door, watching them with intelligent eyes. 7 years of partnership, 7 years of him being right when protocols were wrong. I'm not walking away. Reid nodded slowly. Then we prep. Martinez, show her the camera. The tech specialist pulled out what looked like an ordinary watch. Camera in the face. Press the crown twice to activate. It'll record video and audio with a 90-minute battery. We need you to document everything. Layout, security measures, personnel, any documents you can safely photograph. How do I explain wearing a watch during a security assessment? You don't explain, you just wear it. If they ask, it's a fitness tracker. Martinez fastened it around Sarah's wrist. The lens is nearly invisible. Just make sure you're pointing it at whatever you want to capture. Chen placed a folder in front of Sarah. This is everything we know about Sterling Medical Supply. Employee rosters, delivery schedules, financial records. Study it, know it. You need to sound like someone who did research before taking the job. Sarah opened the folder, started reading. Names, numbers, patterns. Reid's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. We've got a problem. What kind of problem? Chen asked. Captain Daniels just filed paperwork to have Collins's suspension changed to termination with cause. He's claiming she stole evidence from the warehouse, specifically the photographs she took. Reid looked at Sarah. He's building a case that you're a rogue officer who can't be trusted. That actually helps us, Sarah said. Makes my anger more believable. Makes me look desperate. It also means they're escalating, Reid countered. Daniels doesn't make moves like this without orders. Someone wants you completely discredited before you can testify about anything. Then we'd better work fast. Sarah returned to the folder. What time do I call Voss? 6 p.m. Tell her you accept the job. She'll give you instructions for tomorrow. Reid straightened. Tonight, we run scenarios, questions they might ask, situations you might face. We prepare you for every possibility. They worked until midnight, role-playing interrogations, testing cover stories. Martinez showed Sarah how to use the equipment. Chen drilled her on Sterling Medical's background. Reid pushed her with hostile questions, forcing her to stay in character even under pressure. By the time they finished, Sarah's voice was hoarse and her mind buzzed with information, but she was ready. At 6 minutes past 6 p.m., she called the number on Voss's card. Ms. Collins. Voss answered immediately. Have you made a decision? I'm in. When do I start? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll text you the address. Come alone. Well, you and your dog. Dress practically. This is an active facility. Voss paused. And Ms. Collins, my client values discretion. This job doesn't exist. This conversation never happened. Understood? Understood. Good. See you tomorrow. The line went dead. Sarah set down the phone, looked at the 3 federal agents watching her. We're committed now, she said. You're committed, Reid corrected. We're just backup. Everything that happens tomorrow is on you. Morning came too fast. Sarah, dressed in dark tactical pants, sturdy boots, a black jacket. The watch camera felt foreign on her wrist. The audio device Martinez had taped to her sternum itched. Max wore his working harness, the one that signaled duty, not play. He stood at attention by the door, ready. Chen drove them to a parking garage 3 blocks from Sterling Medical Supply. You walk from here. We'll be in position before you arrive. Martinez is monitoring your signals. Anything feels wrong, anything at all. You get out. I know. Sarah. Chen caught her arm. Reid lost his partner doing this. I don't want to lose you too. You won't. Sarah and Max walked 3 blocks through College Park's industrial district. Morning sun already hot. Traffic light. The warehouse loomed ahead. Grey concrete, Sterling Medical Supply in faded letters above the loading dock. A black SUV sat near the entrance. Voss stood beside it, checking her phone. Sarah approached, Max at her heel. Morning. Voss looked up, assessed them both. Punctual. Good, come inside. My client wants to meet you before you start. Warning bells rang in Sarah's head. Reid hadn't mentioned meeting anyone. Just do the assessment, document the facility, leave. I thought this was straightforward, Sarah said. In, out, assessment done. It is, but my client likes to know who he's hiring. Voss opened the warehouse door. It'll take 5 minutes. Sarah's hand touched Max's head. The dog's ears were forward, alert but not alarmed. She followed Voss inside. The warehouse interior was dim, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Rows of shelving holding pharmaceutical supplies. Forklifts parked near the loading dock. Everything looked legitimate, except for the office at the far end, where a man stood watching through a window. Voss led her to the office, knocked once. The door opened. The man from Chen's photograph, Marcus Delgado, stood behind a desk. Expensive suit, calm eyes. The look of someone who'd never had to raise his voice to get what he wanted. Ms. Collins, thank you for coming. His voice was smooth, educated. I'm Marcus Delgado. I own this facility. Sarah shook his offered hand. Elena said you need a security assessment. I do, but first I wanted to meet the woman who trusted her dog over her captain's orders. Delgado gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Sarah sat. Max positioned himself at her feet, body angled to watch both Delgado and Voss. Your suspension made news, Delgado continued. Officer relies on K9 alert, disobeys direct orders, finds hidden evidence, then gets fired for doing exactly what she was trained to do. It's an interesting story. It's a frustrating story, Sarah replied, letting bitterness edge her voice. I did my job. Max did his job. The department threw us away. Which brings us to why you're here. Delgado leaned against his desk. I need someone who understands security, who can identify vulnerabilities before they become problems. Your police background is valuable, but what I really need is someone who can think independently, who trusts their own judgment over bureaucratic protocol. That's what got me suspended. That's what makes you perfect. Delgado smiled. I run several facilities like this, legitimate businesses. But in my industry, security is paramount. I need someone who can assess locations without drawing attention, someone who looks like they belong. A former cop with a security dog. You're invisible. Sarah's pulse was racing, but she kept her face neutral. What exactly are you asking? I'm asking if you'd like a regular consulting position, not just today's assessment. Ongoing work, multiple locations, 50,000 a year cash for maybe 10 hours of work per month. Delgado's eyes were steady. All I ask is discretion. My business competitors don't need to know how thorough my security is. 50,000 for 10 hours monthly. The math didn't work unless what he was really buying was her silence, her complicity. That's generous, Sarah said carefully. I'm a generous man. To people who prove trustworthy. Delgado straightened. Today is your audition. Assess this facility. File a detailed report. If I'm satisfied with your work, we'll discuss ongoing arrangements. He extended his hand. Sarah shook it, feeling the trap close around her. Voss will show you around, Delgado said. Take your time. Be thorough. I want to know every weakness. Sarah and Max followed Voss out of the office. The door closed behind them. Top floor first, Voss said, heading for the stairs. Sarah activated the watch camera with 2 presses of the crown, started documenting everything. The facility looked legitimate on ground level, but as they climbed to the 2nd floor, things changed. Fewer windows, more security cameras, a locked door that Voss unlocked with a keycard. This floor is climate-controlled storage, Voss explained, sensitive materials. The room beyond held rows of filing cabinets, computer servers, a setup nearly identical to what Sarah had found in the warehouse 3 days ago. Max's nose worked the air, his body language shifted, not full alert, but interested. Your dog smells something, Voss asked. He always smells something, part of his training. Sarah moved through the room, watch camera recording. These servers, they're not connected to your main network. Correct. Air-gapped for security. Some of our clients require data isolation. Voss watched her carefully. Is that a problem? Just noting it for the report. Sarah photographed cabinet labels, server configurations. Who has access to this floor? Limited personnel, myself, Mr. Delgado, a few trusted employees. And the 3rd floor? Mostly empty. We're planning expansion but haven't started construction. Sarah filed that away. Mostly empty meant worth checking. They spent 90 minutes going through the facility. Sarah documented everything. Security gaps, camera blind spots, vulnerable entry points. She played the role perfectly, professional, thorough, exactly what Delgado claimed to want. But her mind was cataloguing something else, the filing cabinets that looked identical to the warehouse room, the air-gapped servers that suggested data they didn't want traced, the way Voss watched her constantly, measuring, testing. By 11 a.m., they were done. Very thorough, Voss said as they returned to the ground floor. How long before we have your report? 24 hours. Excellent. Email it to the address on my card. Voss walked her to the exit. Mr. Delgado was impressed. I think you'll be hearing from us again. Sarah and Max walked back to the parking garage, 3 blocks of maintaining composure, of not looking back, of appearing casual. Inside the garage, Chen's vehicle waited. Sarah climbed into the back seat, Max jumping in beside her. Chen drove immediately. "Martinez is downloading your footage now. You okay?" "Define okay." Sarah pulled off the watch camera with shaking hands. "Delgado wants to hire me long-term, 50,000 a year, 10 hours a month." Reid in the passenger seat turned to look at her. "That's not a security job, that's a retainer. He's buying your silence and your skills." "I know. And that second floor? It's the backup location. Same setup as the warehouse room, filing cabinets, air-gapped servers, the whole operation." "Did you document it?" "Every angle the camera could catch." "Good." Reid's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression went dark. "We've got a bigger problem." "What now?" "I just got word from headquarters. Someone filed a complaint about my investigation into Delgado, claims I'm pursuing a vendetta over Morrison's death, that I'm manipulating evidence and recruiting unauthorized civilians." Reid met Sarah's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Someone inside FBI knows what we're doing, and they're trying to shut us down." Cold settled into Sarah's stomach. "You said there might be corruption in the Bureau." "I said might, now I know." Reid's jaw tightened. "Which means we're not just hunting Delgado anymore. We're hunting whoever's protecting him, and they know we're coming." Chen pulled into a quiet lot, parked, turned to face Sarah and Reid. "We need to assume communications are compromised. No more official channels, no more digital records." "Then how do we coordinate?" Sarah asked. "The old-fashioned way, face-to-face, burner phones, dead drops if necessary." Reid pulled out his FBI credentials, stared at them. "And we need to be smart about this. If someone in my office is dirty, they'll be watching me, watching Chen. But you, Collins, you're already off the grid. You're invisible." Sarah understood what he was saying. "You want me deeper inside. I want you to accept Delgado's offer, become his security consultant, get access to all his facilities, find out where he moved the evidence from the warehouse, who's protecting him, how deep the corruption goes." Reid's voice was steady, but Sarah heard the weight behind it. "And then we burn it all down." "That's not an investigation anymore," Sarah said quietly. "That's a personal war. Morrison was my partner for 6 years. They executed him in his own home and made it look like a robbery. You're damn right it's personal." Reid's eyes were hard. "But it's also right. Delgado's operation moves money for cartels. That money funds violence, addiction, death. Every day we wait, people die. So yes, it's a war, and I'm asking if you're willing to fight it." Sarah looked at Max. The dog met her eyes, calm and certain. She looked back at Reid. "I'm in. All the way. Then we move fast. Before whoever's protecting Delgado realizes we know about them." Reid pulled out a map, spread it across the center console. 3 facilities, College Park warehouse we just documented, a construction site in Buckhead, and a real estate office downtown. We need evidence from all 3 locations, evidence that's admissible, evidence that can't be buried. "How long do we have?" "Days? Maybe less." Chen checked her phone. "The complaint filed against Reid goes to review next week. If they suspend him—" "They won't suspend me before we finish this," Reid interrupted. "One way or another, this ends soon." Sarah felt the weight of that statement. One way or another, success or death, no middle ground. "What's our next move?" she asked. "You send Delgado your report, professional, detailed, everything he asked for. He'll love it. He'll offer you the long-term position." Reid folded the map. "And when he does, you accept. You become one of his people. You get invited into places we could never touch with official warrants. And while I'm inside, getting deeper." "While you're inside," Reid said, "we'll be hunting whoever's hunting us. Someone in the Bureau, someone with access, someone who knows our investigation and is working to kill it." His voice went cold. "Morrison trusted the wrong person. I won't make that mistake. They sat in silence for a moment. 3 people and 1 dog, committed to a path that had no official sanction, no backup, no safety net. Sarah broke the silence. When this is over, when we've got everything we need, what happens to me? If we do this right, you get your badge back, you get vindication, you get proof that trusting Max was never the mistake. Reid met her eyes. And Delgado's network burns to the ground. And if we don't do it right? No one answered that question, because they all knew the answer. If they didn't do this right, none of them would be around to regret it. The call came at 2:47 a.m. Sarah jerked awake in the safe house, hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Beside the bed, Max was already on his feet, ears forward. Burner phone vibrating on the nightstand. Reid's number. Collins. Her voice came out rough. We've got him, the leak. I know who's been protecting Delgado. Reid's words came fast, adrenaline-charged. Deputy Director William Hartman. He's been on Delgado's payroll for 3 years. He's the one who transferred the warehouse evidence. He's the one who filed the complaint against me, and he just made a mistake. Sarah sat up, fully awake now. What kind of mistake? He accessed my investigation files an hour ago, used his credentials to pull everything we have on Delgado. Martinez was monitoring for exactly that. We set a trap in the system. Hartman walked right into it. Reid's voice was grim satisfaction. We have digital proof of the access. We have timestamps. We have him. So arrest him. It's not that simple. Hartman has friends. He's been with the Bureau for 20 years. He'll claim he was reviewing the case as part of the complaint investigation. By the time we build a case that can't be dismissed, Delgado will know we're coming. He'll destroy evidence. He'll disappear. Pause. Unless we move tonight, right now, before Hartman can warn him. Sarah's pulse kicked up. What are you asking? I'm asking you to go back to Sterling Medical tonight. Get into that server room on the 2nd floor. Download everything. Then we hit all 3 locations simultaneously. Warehouse, construction site, real estate office. We seize everything before they can react. That's not an investigation. That's a raid. That's justice. Reid's voice was steel. Morrison deserves justice. The people Delgado's operation has hurt deserve justice, and you deserve vindication for being right when everyone said you were wrong. Sarah looked at Max. The dog watched her, waiting for direction. 7 years of partnership had taught them both that sometimes the only choice was forward. How do we do this? She asked. Chen is outside. She'll brief you on the way. Bring Max. Bring everything. This ends tonight. The line went dead. Sarah dressed in 30 seconds. Tactical pants, boots, dark jacket, Max's working harness. The watch camera, the audio device. Chen's vehicle was idling at the curb, engine running. Sarah and Max climbed in. Reid's lost his mind, Chen said as she pulled away from the safe house. What he's asking you to do, it's not sanctioned. It's not legal. If this goes wrong, we all go to prison. But if it goes right, we take down one of the largest money laundering operations in the Southeast. We expose FBI corruption at the highest levels, and we prove that sometimes trusting your instincts matters more than following orders. Chen's hands were tight on the wheel. I'm in. Martinez is in. Reid's obviously in. But Sarah, you need to understand. Once you walk into that warehouse, there's no extraction. No backup. If Delgado's people are there, if this goes sideways, you're on your own. I've been on my own since Daniels took my badge. No. Chen glanced at her. You've had Max. You've never been alone. Sarah reached back, touched Max's head. Solid, warm, certain. Chen drove through Atlanta's empty pre-dawn streets. Streetlights painted the pavement in orange pools. Traffic lights cycled for no one. Delgado doesn't know we're coming, Sarah asked. Reid's betting on it. Hartman accessed the files an hour ago. Even if he called Delgado immediately, they'd need time to move evidence. We're hitting them in that window, after they're warned, but before they can react fully. Chen turned onto an industrial street. Sterling Medical is 2 blocks ahead. Martinez hacked their security system. You'll have 15 minutes before the cameras loop back to live feed. 15 minutes to break in, access a secured server room, download files and get out. Yes, that's impossible. Then do the impossible. You've been doing it all week. Chen pulled to a stop 3 blocks from the warehouse. Killed the lights. Audio is live. Martinez is listening. Reid and I will be at the other locations, making simultaneous entries. If you call the emergency line, we abort everything and come get you. But Sarah, don't call unless you absolutely have to, because if we abort, this is over. Delgado walks. Hartman walks. Everyone responsible for Morrison's death walks. Sarah looked at the warehouse in the distance. Dark. Silent. Waiting. I won't call, she said. She and Max got out. Chen pulled away immediately, taillights disappearing into darkness. They moved through shadows towards Sterling Medical. Max at heel, silent as smoke. Sarah's training kicked in. Check corners, watch windows, listen for movement. The facility looked abandoned. No vehicles, no lights. But that didn't mean empty. The loading dock door was steel, locked. Sarah pulled out the key card Martinez had provided, cloned from Voss's card during yesterday's tour. She swiped it. Green light. Click. The door opened 6 inches. Sarah slipped through, Max following. They stood in the loading dock area listening, silence, empty, but Max's body language said otherwise. Ears forward, nose working. He smelled something. Someone. Sarah activated the watch camera, started moving toward the stairs. Every footstep felt too loud, every breath too visible. 2nd floor. The door to the climate-controlled storage room. Another keycard swipe. Inside, the server room hummed with electronic life. LEDs blinked on equipment. Filing cabinets lined the walls. It looked exactly like yesterday, except for one critical difference. Papers scattered on the floor, filing cabinet drawers standing open. Someone had been here recently. Max growled low. Alert position. Sarah's hand moved to her absent weapon. Nothing there. She was civilian, unarmed, vulnerable. A voice spoke from the darkness near the servers. I knew you'd come back. Lights flicked on, blinding. Marcus Delgado stepped into view. He held a phone. Not a gun, just a phone, but his smile was dangerous. Ms. Collins, or should I say Agent Collins, FBI consultant, civilian informant? Delgado's voice was calm, conversational. Which title do you prefer? Sarah's mind raced. Martinez was listening. Reid was listening. They knew she was compromised, but extraction would take minutes she didn't have. I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah said. Voss hired me to assess security. I realized I left notes yesterday. I came back for them. At 3 in the morning, with a cloned keycard, wearing recording equipment. Delgado held up his phone, showed her a photo. Sarah and Chen in the vehicle, taken minutes ago. I have people watching, the FBI agents watching me. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? You need to leave, Sarah said quietly. Max's growl intensified. You need to leave now. Or what? Your dog will attack? Your FBI handlers will storm the building? Delgado laughed. By the time they arrive, everything in this room will be gone. My people are moving it as we speak, and you? You'll disappear. Another tragic accident. Suspended cop breaks into private property, suffers unfortunate encounter with security systems. These things happen. Sarah heard footsteps behind her. Voss appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 men in security uniforms, both armed. The files are loaded, Voss said to Delgado. 3 minutes until the truck is clear. Excellent! Delgado's eyes never left Sarah. Take her downstairs. Make it look accidental. The dog, too. Voss moved forward. Max's growl turned into a snarl. Sarah made a choice in the space between heartbeats. She lunged, not at Delgado, but at the nearest server, grabbed a hard drive, yanked. Alarms shrieked. Emergency lights strobed red. "Max! Guard!" The dog moved like lightning. Voss went down, screaming. The two security guards raised weapons, but hesitated. Shooting a dog in front of cameras was different than disposing of a body quietly. Sarah ran. Through the storage room, into the hallway, Max at her heels. Behind her, Delgado shouted orders. She hit the stairs going down, taking them 3 at a time, the hard drive clutched in one hand, the burner phone in the other. She activated the emergency line. "Compromised," she shouted. "They know! They're moving evidence now!" Reid's voice came back instantly. "Where are you?" "Ground floor! They're armed! They're—" Gunfire. The wall beside her head exploded in concrete dust. Sarah dove behind a forklift. Max pressed against her side. The loading dock was 30 feet away. 30 feet through open space with armed men behind her. "Max!" she whispered. "Out! Find Chen! Go!" The dog hesitated, his eyes locked with hers. Trust versus obedience, protection versus command. "Go!" Sarah pushed him toward the loading dock. "Out!" Max ran, low and fast, disappearing through the partially open door. More gunfire. The forklift's metal frame rang with impacts. Sarah clutched the hard drive, pressed herself smaller. Her phone buzzed. Text from Reid. 2 minutes. Hold position. 2 minutes was forever. Footsteps approached. Voss's voice. "Collins, we just want the drive. Toss it out and we let you walk." Sarah's thumb found the watch camera crown. Pressed twice. Recording. She held the drive where the camera could see it. Read the label. Delgado Primary Backup, 2024. "This what you want?" Sarah shouted. "The files you're moving, the evidence of everything? Just slide it out, Collins. No one needs to get hurt." Sarah's mind raced. The files Martinez had given her. The layout of this facility. The loading dock had a fire suppression system, triggered by heat sensors. She pulled out her lighter, held it where they could see. "You're right," Sarah called. "No one needs to get hurt, which is why I'm walking out that door. And if anyone tries to stop me, I light this drive on fire and destroy everything it contains." Silence. Then Delgado's voice. "She's bluffing." "Am I?" Sarah flicked the lighter. Flame danced. "You've spent 3 years building this network. Every transaction, every account, every name. All of it on this drive. Want to bet I won't burn it?" "You need that evidence," Voss said. "You need it to prove your case." "I need to survive more." Sarah stood slowly, visible now, lighter held to the hard drive. "I'm walking out. You can shoot me and lose everything. Or you can let me go and maybe recover this later." She moved toward the loading dock. 1 step, 2. Max's barking echoed from outside, furious, protective, calling to her. 5 steps, 10. A security guard shifted, weapon rising. Sarah grabbed the fire alarm handle on the wall, yanked. Sirens shrieked, sprinklers activated, water hammered down from ceiling nozzles. In the confusion, Sarah ran through the loading dock door into pre-dawn darkness. Max materialized beside her, matching her pace. Headlights flooded the area, Chen's vehicle skidding to a stop. The door flew open. "Go, go, go!" Chen shouted. Sarah and Max dove into the back seat. Chen accelerated before the door closed, tires screaming. Behind them, figures appeared in the warehouse doorway. Gunfire sparked off the vehicle's rear, safety glass spiderwebbed, but held. Chen took a corner at 50 miles per hour. "Reid's hitting the construction site now. Martinez is at the real estate office. Did you get it? Did you get the files?" Sarah held up the hard drive, soaking wet but intact. "Got them." "You beautiful, crazy woman." Chen grabbed her radio. "Reid, Collins has the primary backup. Repeat, we have the files." Reid's voice came back, staticky with interference. "FBI, nobody move. This is a federal raid." Gunfire in the background, shouting. Chen and Sarah looked at each other. He's actually doing it, Sarah said. He's hitting them with federal authority. Hartman's going to bury him for this. Not if the files prove what we think they prove. Chen drove to a parking garage downtown, pulled into a covered space, killed the engine. For a moment, neither woman moved. Max panted in the back seat, tongue lolling, tail wagging. To him, this was just another good day of working. Sarah's phone buzzed. Reid. Construction site secure. Multiple arrests. Martinez has the real estate office. Meet at FBI field office. Now. Sarah showed Chen the message. That's bold, Chen said, taking this straight to FBI headquarters with Hartman inside. Reid's betting everything on these files. If they don't prove the corruption, then we all go to prison. Chen started the engine. Better make sure they prove it. The FBI field office was chaos. Agents running, phones ringing. Deputy Director Hartman stood in the operations center, his face purple with rage. Reid, what the hell do you think you're doing? You just raided 3 locations without authorization. You enlisted a suspended civilian in an illegal operation. I just shut down a money laundering network that you've been protecting for 3 years. Reid stood his ground, drenched from rain, bleeding from a cut above his eye, but absolutely certain. And I have proof. You have nothing. I'll have your badge for this. You'll have more than that. Reid turned to Martinez. Show him. The tech specialist pulled up files on the main screen. Financial records, wire transfers, meeting notes, and at the center of it all, Hartman's name, payments, instructions, communications. This hard drive, Reid said, holding it up, contains 3 years of Delgado's records, including detailed logs of every payment made to his FBI contact. Deputy Director William Hartman, you took over $2 million. You leaked information about investigations. You transferred evidence. You got my partner killed. The operations center went silent. Hartman's face cycled through emotions, rage, fear, calculation. That's fabricated. You manufactured evidence because of your vendetta. No one will believe. I believe it. Assistant Director Catherine Walsh stepped into the room. She'd been with the Bureau for 30 years. Her word was law. Reid came to me this morning, told me everything, showed me preliminary findings. She looked at Hartman. I've been watching you for 6 hours, watching what you accessed, who you called. And 30 minutes ago, I watched you try to call Marcus Delgado to warn him about the raids. That call is recorded. Hartman's face went gray. Walsh nodded to 2 agents. Arrest him. Corruption, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. Start with those. Hartman was led away in handcuffs, still protesting, still claiming innocence, still believing his position would protect him. Walsh turned to Reid. You disobeyed about 14 protocols tonight. Yes, ma'am. You recruited a civilian into an unsanctioned operation. Yes, ma'am. You raided 3 locations without proper warrants. Exigent circumstances, ma'am. Evidence was being destroyed. Walsh almost smiled. You're the biggest pain in my ass, Reid, but you're also one of my best agents. Morrison would be proud. She looked past him to Sarah, standing with Max at the edge of the room. That's the suspended cop? Lieutenant Sarah Collins, ma'am. Atlanta PD K9 unit. Walsh walked over to Sarah, studied her, studied Max. You're the one who found the original warehouse room. My dog found it, Sarah corrected. I just listened to him and got suspended for it. Yes, ma'am. Captain Daniels is in interview room 3, Walsh said. We picked him up an hour ago. Turns out he's been taking payments too, not from Delgado directly, from one of the pharmaceutical companies Delgado controls. 50,000 over 2 years. That's why he shut you down so hard. You found something he was being paid to keep hidden. Sarah's chest tightened. Daniels. Her captain, the man she'd trusted, bought and paid for. What happens to him? She asked. Prison, if we do our jobs right. Walsh's voice was steel. What happens to you is more interesting. Your suspension was politically motivated. Your captain was corrupt. Your instincts were correct. As far as I'm concerned, Atlanta PD owes you a massive apology. I just want my badge back. You'll get more than that. Walsh looked at Reid. What's your assessment? Could she work federal? In a heartbeat. Collins. Walsh turned back to Sarah. When this is over, when you're reinstated with Atlanta PD, if you want a recommendation for FBI K-9 unit, you've got it. Someone who trusts their dog over corrupt orders. That's exactly who we need. Sarah didn't know what to say. Max pressed against her leg, grounding her. Thank you, Mom, she managed. Don't thank me, thank your dog. He's the one who started this whole thing. Walsh walked away, already barking orders about processing evidence. Reid approached, exhausted but victorious. We did it. Delgado's in custody. Hartman's in custody. Daniels is going to prison. Voss and her security team are detained. It's over. What happens to the evidence? Sarah asked. It goes to prosecutors. They'll build cases that'll take years to fully prosecute, but the important thing, the network is broken. The corruption is exposed. People will go to prison. Chen joined them, carrying coffee that probably tasted terrible, but smelled like salvation. Martinez just confirmed. Every file on that hard drive is admissible. You got everything we needed, Sarah. Everything. Sarah accepted the coffee, looked at the 3 federal agents who'd bet their careers on trusting her. I broke into a private facility, she said. I stole evidence. I'm pretty sure I committed about 12 felonies tonight. In service of exposing corruption, Reid countered. That's whistleblowing, not crime. No prosecutor will touch you. How can you be sure? Because I'm vouching for you. Chen's vouching for you. Walsh is vouching for you. And most importantly, Reid gestured to the screens showing financial evidence. You were right about everything, about trusting Max, about following the lead, about refusing to walk away when they tried to pay you off. Sarah sat down hard in a nearby chair. Adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by exhaustion that went bone deep. Max sat at her feet, put his chin on her knee. 7 years of partnership. 7 years of him being right when the world was wrong. Good boy, Sarah whispered. Best boy. His tail wagged. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the Atlanta police chief's office, full-dress uniform, Max at attention beside her, Chief Anderson behind his desk, Captain Daniels' replacement, Lieutenant Morrison, no relation to the FBI agent, standing as witness. Lieutenant Collins, Anderson began, this department owes you an apology. You were suspended for following proper K-9 protocol. You were threatened for discovering evidence of corruption, and you were terminated because your captain was being paid to keep you silent. He stood, opened a box on his desk. Your badge, your service weapon, and this. He pulled out a commendation. The Medal of Valor, for actions above and beyond the call of duty in exposing corruption and assisting federal authorities in dismantling a criminal network. Sarah accepted the badge. The weight of it felt different now, heavier, more precious. There's one more thing, Anderson said. We've reviewed Max's record. 7 years of service, 14 lives saved, 0 false alerts. He's being officially promoted to Master K-9, and there's a ceremony next week where he'll receive a department citation. Sarah looked down at Max. The dog looked back, tongue lolling in a doggy smile. He already knows he's the best, Sarah said. Then it's time everyone else knows it too. Anderson came around the desk, extended his hand. Welcome back, Lieutenant. We're damn glad to have you. Outside the building, Sarah and Max walked to her Explorer. The vehicle still smelled like dog treats and determination. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Her phone buzzed. Reid. Delgado trial starts in 6 months. You'll have to testify. Bring Max. Jury will love him. Sarah smiled, typed back, We'll be there. She opened the back door for Max. The dog jumped in, settled into his usual spot. Sarah climbed into the driver's seat, badge on her belt, weapon secured, partner in the back. Everything as it should be. In her rearview mirror, the police headquarters building stood against Atlanta's skyline. Inside, officers were doing their jobs. Outside, the city moved forward. Sarah started the engine. 7 years ago, she'd made a choice to partner with a dog who saw the world differently, who trusted instincts humans had forgotten, who'd never once led her wrong. That choice had cost her everything. That choice had given her everything back. "Where to, Max?" she asked. The dog's tail thumped against the seat. "Yeah," Sarah said softly. "I feel that too. Feels like going to work." She pulled out of the parking lot, heading toward whatever call would come next, whatever case needed solving, whatever impossible situation required someone willing to trust their partner over protocol. Lieutenant Sarah Collins, Master K9 Max, back on duty, back to saving lives, back to proving that sometimes the best decisions are made by listening to those who see the world differently, who trust instincts over orders, who know that loyalty isn't about following rules, it's about following truth. In the back seat, Max settled his head on his paws, content. The best boy, the truest partner, the one who'd been right all along. And finally, the world had listened.